This is our next lesson this week. What we're going to do is we're going to actually look at drawing demand and supply curves. So I've just drawn out a chart here just to save time. We've two of them. I'm just going to focus on the one at the top of the page first. And I'm going to call this my demand curve. This is my chart for my demand curve, and this is the one that we're going to focus on first. I'm just going to change the font to make it a little bit bigger. So what are we doing? Over here we have our demand schedule. So we've looked at this before. This is information you'll be given in a question. It's come up in the junior cert where they give you this information in this box, and then they'll give you a space below to draw the demand curve. So how to draw the curve? Well, you're given two different pieces of information. You're given the price and you're given the quantity demanded. All I've done now is I have just drawn my graph here with my y-axis, which I'm calling price, and my x-axis, which I'm calling quantity demanded. So I have my two axes drawn. I have labeled. I've reasonably spaced out. This is just kind of rough work. Reasonably spaced out numbers depending on the numbers they gave. So when the price is €50, the quantity demanded is 200. Very simply, I am now going to look at my graph. When the price is 50, so this is my price column over here to the left. When the price is 50, so 50 is around here. So this is when my price is 50, my quantity demanded is 200. So I'm going to go across 200 and I'm going to draw a very poorly drawn dot. This is my point. So when the price is 50 here, I go over across. When the demand is 200, I go up here, and that's my first point. Very simply, the other 3 points are the exact same. When the price is 100, the quantity demanded is 160. I go across from 100 on the y-axis, I go across to 160 here, and again I'm going to draw my point. Price is 150, demand is 120. Again, exact same thing here. Price is 200, quantity demand is 80. Price is 200, quantity demand is 80. I'm not an art teacher, I'm a business and accounting teacher, so this line will probably look terrible. There we go. This is supposed to be my line. Technically it's called a demand curve. Usually when we're looking at it for junior cert, it's generally a line. It doesn't have to be though, so technically can be a curve. But this is what we call the demand curve. All I've done basically is just like you did in maths. We're taking these points here for my price, which is going to be my y-axis, and for my x-axis down here I have my quantity demanded. I just basically find the figures, go across from the price, find it up from the demand, and draw my points. I have 4 points, I join them together, that's my curve. So that's demand. And what we notice here is that as the price, I'm just going to go back to my thing, as the price goes up, so when the price goes up here, the higher the price gets, the closer to the y-axis that the point gets. So when the price is 200, my point is quite close over here to the y-axis. Why? Because demand is low. When the price of a expensive piece of whatever it is, let's just say the price of price of shoes or something like that, just to kind of make it some way relevant to a teenager's life. So price of new runners are €200. There's only 80 people interested in purchasing it. When the price goes down to €150, there's now 120 people interested in buying it. Price goes to 100, now you have 160 people, and if the price drops to 50, you have 200 people interested. So more than basically two and a half times that of when the price was 200. And that's my demand curve. What is it again? The higher the price, the lower the demand. And we can see that here, that the highest price, the demand is low. So that is my demand curve. We have yet to look at the supply curve. So this right here, I'm going to draw a just point over here just to, that's absolutely terrible. Rather than drawing points, I'll just draw a relatively straight line. Everything up here is to do with my demand curve. Everything down here is to do with my supply curve. So this right here I'm going to call my supply curve. I'm just going to label this here at the top. You'd be expected to label what you're working on. So this is my supply curve. And again, just to make that a little bit more stand out a little bit more, I'll just increase the font. So my supply curve, how do I do my supply curve? Well, it's the exact same thing. This is the information given my supply schedule. So again, this is called a schedule. They give you this in a question. When my price is 50, my demand is 80. So again, I draw the exact same thing. When my price is 50, this is the same here. So go up to price is 50, demand is 80. That's my first point. You'll now notice that when the price is low, the demand is also low. Because this, or sorry, the quantity supplied is also low. So for supply, it's the exact opposite. So the demand is moving here. The demand will start up here and it'll be up high here up at our y-axis, and it'll slowly move down to our x-axis. This is going to be the opposite. This will start here at 0, 0, and it's going to work its way up. But the first point they give us is 50 and 80. Second point is 100 and 100. So I go across to my price here at 100. I'm going to go across to about this point here. This is roughly 100 in between. When the price is 150, demand is 120. So when the price is 150, demand here is 120. And when the price is 200, demand is 140. When the price is 200, demand is 140. Again, the exact same, a badly drawn line that is supposed to intersect all points. But you get the message. These are my points in the graph. I'm not an art teacher. So this is just a schedule. They give you this. These are just the figures. And again, I'm just finding my price here. I work up along the y-axis and I go across to the x-axis. I find my point here for the first one, which is 50 and 80. That's where they meet. That's my dot. I've done a second dot here, third dot here, and fourth dot over here. I simply join them up at the end, and this is called my supply curve. So this here is my supply curve. I should stop drawing. This is, again, I think it's a relatively simple question, and it's a nice one to come up in an exam because they give you these figures, and all you have to do simply is just plot them. Usually you'd have to draw out the graph as well, and sometimes people are, can very easily fill in the points, but sometimes it's labeling the graph that's a problem. Usually I would go for price on the y-axis. And the reason I would do that generally is because the prices generally don't change drastically. Sometimes the demand could go from 100 to 200, 300 to 400, and you might have a very long graph here, whereas the price might only go 20, 30, 40, and it's just easier to kind of draw the price in a smaller range. Whereas quantity, you can use as much of the page generally as you have. So very simply, again, for both of them, we find the x-axis or the y-axis points here, and we go across to where they meet in the x-axis, and then we join the dots at the end. You'll notice that for supply, when the price is low, the quantity supplied is low. When the price is high, the quantity supplied is high. And again, I've said that before, for something like if Ed Sheeran was told that he was going to perform at a school, and the school could only raise, let's say the school had to pay him, and he wasn't doing it out of the goodness of his heart, and the school had to raise, let's say, €2,000 just to pay him for 1 hour, which would be quite low. Chances are he'll probably only play for 1 hour. So if the price was, let's say, 2,000, and we went 2,000 here to pay Ed Sheeran, chances are he'll only supply 1 hour. But if we somehow manage to get €200,000, and we manage to give him €200,000 to play at our school, he'd probably be more willing to play for multiple hours. If you told him, I'll give you €200,000 if you play for 8 hours, he'd probably play for 8 hours. He'd probably pay for more. So basically, the higher the price, the more someone's going to get paid, the more they're willing to supply. And that's a very simple way of thinking about it, that musicians and these big artists, they play at the big events because they're willing to supply more of their hours to that event because they get a higher price. Demand is the opposite, because if the price is really high, not as much people buy it. There's very few people walking around with cars, sports cars that cost 1 million quid, because if the price is 1 million quid, there's only a few thousand people that are going to be interested in buying it. If the price is going to be 5,000 or 10,000 or something like that, you'll find that there'll be millions of people buying that car. That is a demand curve and a supply curve explained.